Hi, I'm Brad Emery, and this is my Module 5, Understanding My Community. So our sociological inventory for St. John, Kansas, and I work in St. John Elementary School, and I did a combination of the school and our district, since our district's so small, and then pulled in some of the community resources as well for this presentation. So our inventory, we have a pretty limited budget. We've got a decreasing population in the school, so much so that our superintendent also serves as our elementary principal. And so we're really pinching pennies and making the most of everything we can. Some of our traditions and customs, anytime our teams make it to state, which is pretty often actually, we have a sports send-off in which we have kindergarten all the way through 12th grade come in to our main gym, as we're one combined building. We send those students off in a long just parade with high fives on the way out, so the kids get to see and support those older students as well. We have a great homecoming opportunity for alumni to come back, and as I'll get to a little bit later, we have a jubilee through the community in which there's an opportunity for homecoming reunions for all of our alumni also. Just today we did a Halloween parade, and we celebrate all the major holidays in the school, and that was a great opportunity to get out, and we walked around our town square where the community could come out, and anyone who was interested could watch those kids parade around. Our school board is mostly composed of local alumni who have come back to town and now work and live with their own families who attend school also, and we have some really good PTO support. We also have a small local government that's run by a city council with a mayor. We've got a Communities That Care program, which is part of the umbrella of the Circles ministry that reaches out to people in poverty and helps them lift themselves out of poverty through some intense training and really focused on building relationships. And that's been a huge benefit to the impoverished members of our community. We are the Stafford County seat, and as such, we host the Stafford County Economic Development as well, and you'll hear a lot about them throughout this presentation. There is a little bit of a small town rivalry between the cities that are near to us. We've got Stafford about 15 miles to the east, and Maxville about 15-20 miles in the opposite direction. We have some huge support for alumni. We have a local basketball star, Dean Wade, who played at K-State and now plays for the Cavaliers. And we do have a growing Hispanic population, which we'll touch on a little later as well. Some of our customs and traditions, we were a solid school district that values growth and excellence. We have a really strong school pride in the small town and the rural community that we live in. As I mentioned, a lot of the people around here went to school here. Their parents went to school here. One of the paras that works in my room has been around so long, she not only knows parents of current students, but their grandparents, and she helped teach those with her husband who taught band. We have the St. John Jubilee at the end of school every year. That's a town and community event hosted during the summer, and that's a great time for the schools to come in and be a part of as well. One of the things that they've started here recently is the art teacher has partnered with some of the local community members to put on an art auction where pieces are sold to whoever wants to buy them at a live auction, and then the proceeds go back towards that foundation and the school art program as well for the kids to spend as they see fit, which is a really neat thing. We're a faith-based community. We've got a lot of local churches. There's a strong Catholic vein as well as some Protestant churches in town, and we really get to see them come into and help out a lot. They volunteer in the school and are very supportive and bringing us everything we could need without ever pushing faith on anyone. And the community really supports changes in the school district. They're just really on board with anything that we've done. As far as the population characteristics of the town, 22% of the town has at least a high school graduate or is at least a high school graduate, while 30% has some college, and then 37% has a degree of some sort. We've got about 12 of that 37% is an associate's degree, about 18% is a bachelor's, and the remaining 7% have a graduate degree. Ages range from birth all the way up into the 80s in our town. The median age is right around 41, 42 years old, and we see that with the kids in our school also. That would be mainly their parents. Most common age you'll find is in the 40s and 50s. We've got about a 50-50 break on female and male in the town, and as a whole, our population is declining. You're going to see a chart of that a little later, and while it looks very drastic, we're a small town, so we've lost about 100 people over the past 5 to 10 years. Really, the only significant diversity that we have in town is between the Hispanic and the Caucasian populations, and we have a growing Hispanic population, even though the town or the population of the town as a whole is on decline. Within the school, we've got about a 53% male, and that remaining 47% is female. We're 75% white, and that remaining quarter is Hispanic, and within that branch, we have 12% English language learners. 54% of our students are considered economically disadvantaged, so that really affects our culture and makes some decisions different than what we would normally expect in a rural community like this. 21% of our students have qualified to have disabilities, and as in the town, our population is declining at school as well. The communication channels that we have, social media is our biggest one. That's where we get our news out through Facebook and related channels. We also have a local TV station that has some news. We've got a local newspaper. There's a monthly newsletter that goes out from the school, and then there's a student-run newsletter that's bundled in from the school as well to anyone who's interested. Our local news channel and TV is run by a former school employee who volunteers his time and is at every major event, every community event you can think of, and posts that not only on the news stations but on YouTube as well for anyone that wants to see it. And really, a lot of our information is just a social sharing. We're a small community where people talk to each other and still interact face to face, so you see a lot of that. The community groups in town, as I mentioned, we've got the Stafford County Economic Development, who's done some really great things for our town. They brought in a local pharmacy and worked really hard to get that, which has been a huge benefit to everyone here, and added some jobs as well. And they worked to bring in a local grocery store after we lost our small town Dillon's a few years back. And so we now have a White's Food Liner that's not only a great employer, but is a great resource to have here in a community where our closest store is about 30 minutes away. We've got the 4-H program of Stafford County located here in town. The school runs and operates a robotics team that's done some really neat things in the past few years, and we'll talk some more about what that looks like. The library is a unique situation. It's not only a school library, but it's part of the public library, so it's one and the same. It's right next door to our school building, and that's got some awesome programs for adults, for parents as teachers, for just community members who can come in and hear some seminars on various topics. They just finished up one on beekeeping not that long ago. They also host the Tiger Tots program for toddlers and young or single or married mothers and young children. We have an Oddfellows Lodge that hosts the Oddfellows and Rebecca's. As I mentioned, we've got PTO and Booster Club that are very active in our school and community. The recreation department is a pass-through of the school and hosted by the community. Our taxes go towards that, and they do some really neat programs for the kids and anyone who wants to get involved with them. Then we have the various Scouts of America, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Our leadership at the school consists of a superintendent who's directed by the Board of Education. The principal of the high school, as I mentioned, our superintendent is also our elementary principal. We have our Booster Club, which, while not a traditional leader, has a lot of sway. There's quite a few teachers on that, and then some longtime community members. So they have quite a bit of power, as it were, to push certain decisions through. And usually that works out very well. And they're very supportive of the school and are very generous with their time and donations and volunteering. There's a district leadership team that consists of teachers from the high school and grade school who come together and offer advice and support from an educator perspective. And we influence the teachers, community, and students. The community leaders' characteristics, they really are a servant leadership. Everyone that we see, they're go-getters who are driven and passionate. They're organized and accessible. And really, all of our leaders are very invested in the community. Some, if not all of them, have kids who attend school. Their families are often employed by the school. Our superintendent says that all of his decisions are based on the fact that his wife works at the school and all of his kids attend school here. So we know he's invested. And many, if not all of our board members are alumni of St. John also. We're a strong agricultural industry here in St. John. We've got a local grocery store. The Hudson Flour Mill is a big employer also, just a few miles north of us and are considered part of our district. Our average household income in town ranges between $50,000 and $60,000. We've got about a 12% poverty rate. The school employment is very stable. We lose very few teachers. We don't have a lot of turnaround. Once people come, they stay for a long time, and it's no surprise as solid as our district is and as much as the community supports us. There have been some water rights issues with Quivira National Water Reserve, and we're still working all that out. They have agreed to bargain and come to a compromise with the local farmers, which is great because that would have a huge impact on our economy. And as I mentioned before, we're the Stafford County seat. We have limited funding here in the school, so as I said earlier, we pinch pennies. We just recently upgraded the boilers that are over 30 years old, and we do have an old building, so balancing that budget to make the most of it is very challenging. We struggle to find non-classified positions, paras, subs, bus drivers, lunch workers, and others, but thankfully our community is very supportive. They've started a farm-to-school program in which they donate beef for different meals, and the Hudson Flour Mill donates flour and other things to our lunch program. And the students created, under the guidance of some teachers a year or so ago, Tigertown Pizza, which is our local pizza parlor. And they work there, they serve there, and a lot of the proceeds come back into grants that are given to our students and just used to fund various things in education. So that was a really neat project. There are few to no social tensions. Their local town and community rivalries, the closest thing we can come up with. Students do tend to gravitate towards a similar race or SES within the school, but they're always kind and respectful towards one another, and that's really the dominant attitude when you come into the school. We have our typical small town cliques, but we don't have any gangs, competition, or really any discrimination that is noticeable. As far as extra sources of information, we take a community care survey. Students take that in their 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade years to tell us a little bit about what's going on. There is a telephone book for the community. The high school students deliver that. We are the Stafford County seat and home of the economic department, as has been mentioned, and our school board meeting are public. They take minutes of that, and anyone can attend those whenever they want to. As far as power structures, it is a top-down. The school board really gives a lot of power to the superintendent and relies on him to guide instruction, and he carries that out through his duties as an elementary principal and then in his communication with the high school principal. As teachers, we follow the leaders and have a lot of independent flexibility as well to take what they've shown us and put it into use, and then the students follow the guidance set by the leaders. We do have an area of weakness with the multicultural issues, with our lack of diversity. Even though we have a 25% Hispanic population, they're really represented in name only. We lack a cultural awareness and don't really have any traditions or cultural understanding tied in with them. As I mentioned, with this power structure, it's top down. We do have a very open political environment. There's teachers with differing views, and we're aware of that, but we're unified on the school goals. And our political and civic actions are encouraged and supported by the leadership, whether that's voting or local representation. We do have some local representatives at the state level. So to wrap this up, our public opinion has strong community support, excellent backing and turnout to school events for things like parent-teacher conferences. Our athletics are always well represented, and our successful alumni are celebrated. Dean Wade has some banners going up and a trophy case to show his successes. We've got academic support and Scholars Bowl and Robotics Night, music programs, PE programs, and Tigertown Pizza. And our public surveys are used to gain and gather information towards school growth. So thank you for your time. I'm wrapping up as our clock is running down, and thanks for taking the time to watch this.